I am delighted to be joined by one of Ireland's greatest sportsmen, Michael Conlan. Mick, thanks very much for stopping by today to ID Studios. Always good to catch up.
Appreciate you having me, mate. Appreciate you having me. It's nice to finally be in the studio.
It is nice to have you in the studio. I can't remember the last time we did an interview. I remember interviewing you in Manchester a while ago now.
Jason Conlan.
Yeah,
2018.
Yeah, God, so that's really has been a while ago. Obviously, we've had COVID. I haven't been avoiding you, of course. But how are you? How's things at the minute?
I'm good. I've been blessed to have the main man Andy with me all the time. So you're more of a homebird at the minute, but he's been away abroad, so it's been good. Yeah, everything's good. Training's been going well. Preparation obviously for my next fight, which is a world title fight, and I'm happy.
Yeah, shout out Andy Purwell, who's always out there doing the hard work while I sit at home with my feet up. But let's move on from that. Before we come on to talk about your world title fight, of course, against Luis Alberto Lopez, a fight that I love, on May the 27th. A great day for boxing fans. I mean, there's 3 shows on the same night. Let's go back. I want to kind of get you in and have a little chat, I guess, and kind of go through your storied career from the amateurs right the way forward. I guess the first question is, Michael, obviously you're from a fighting family, you're from a boxing family. What does boxing mean to you? How was your earliest memories of kind of growing up in a boxing family?
Yeah, listen, it was always competition in my house, and like for everything. Well, even before boxing, we used to watch the boxing, and my dad would actually used to have us like fighting each other, obviously play fighting, but like, and I would, because I was a little bit smaller than the 2 older me, there was 1 younger. He would always say I would win against them, and so he was always building that kind of confidence from a young age, and we were just competing with each other. And then the 2 older ones, they get sent to the boxing gym, Brendan and Jamie. Jamie's the oldest, and I just followed them. I wasn't sent there. I just wanted to be like them and be like Jamie and stuff. So I kept going to the gym, and the coach at the time kicked me out. Says you're too young, because you had to be 10. I think I was only 7. So I went to a different gym, and then he see me like on a club show and was like, get him back, tell him to come back, get him back. So he got my dad to come back, and then the rest is history. Basically, I've been at it ever since.
So growing up with 3 other brothers who all boxed together, I can imagine that was probably a lively upbringing for yourself. Though I imagine it was had its moments when you were younger.
Yeah, well, like me and the brother between me and Jamie, Brendan, we clashed the most because we were closest in terms of age and stuff, and he was the older one, so he always wanted to be better than me. And he was, as when we were kids, he was the best of the 3 of us, and then he kind of fell out of love with it. But I remember we used to spar and stuff, and like he probably would have battered me, but Jamie would have been saying, "Nah, Michael won," and he would hate it, and then I always kind of thought I was better than him, and yeah, it was just competitive from day one, and that's the way it's been, and it's probably continued like that right up until they all kind of stopped boxing. And so yeah,
I was keen to ask, certainly Irish fighters, because it is for people who I'm sure people are familiar, but Ireland is it's a boxing mad country. I've spoke to Frampton in the past about kind of growing up with amateur fighters are superstars over in Ireland. I mean, you're a good example of that. Yeah. What does boxing mean to Ireland, obviously to Belfast, and how does it kind of shape you at a young age?
I think like it's everything when you're a kid at home, because my father was my coach, and he's actually now the Irish Olympic coach. But it was just competition everywhere you went, and like I think on my road within like 2 miles, I think it was like 12 clubs or something like that, or probably more, I think. But it was just everybody was a boxer. Everybody thought they were the next, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Mayweather, whoever you looked up to at that age. So it was always competition. You always had sparring. You always had, the gyms were packed with kids from no age. So you're always like competing against other kids. And yeah, boxing in Ireland is huge. It's our greatest and most successful Olympic sport is boxing. So I'm happy to be a part of that history.
You mentioned there about kind of like Mike Tyson and people like, what fighters did you watch when you were growing up?
Mine was always Morales, Barrera, Pacquiao, all that. Not so much Floyd, it was like, I love the Mexican style, even De La Hoya and stuff. They were fighters, my father used to get us up and we would be watching fights at like 4 a.m. And like, I was a kid, like, I was getting woke out of bed, getting my sleep interrupted, come on, watch the fight. He would have loved people to sit and watch the fight, because it was just it was part of life, really.
Were you a Barrera man or a Morales man?
Morales.
Why?
It's Morales. I don't know. I think it was more Jamie. Jamie was Morales. I wanted to be like Jamie, so I was Morales. The brother in between us, he was Barrera. Or Brendan, he loved Barrera. So I was like, nah, Morales too then. So, and then like just I loved the rivalry between them two and the disrespect between them two. It was like looking at you, go, yeah, it's disrespectful, but I appreciate it. You know what I mean? The spitting on each other and stuff. You're going, what the fuck? But like ready to fight at press conferences and stuff. I just love that kind of machismo, the Mexican machismo. Like, you know what I mean? And I know I have a Mexican who's going to bring a lot of that stuff come, May 27th.
I'm sure you will. But I don't think it will get as spicy as that. But you never know. You never know. It might do. I think that they do a podcast together now, Barrera and Morales, which is so crazy. There's got the iconic clip of them at the press conference where the punches start throwing and it goes straight away from there. I've always been a Morales man. My favourite Morales fight is the first Pacquiao fight. Yeah. When he beats... at the time, Pacquiao was really getting the big push. Yeah. And Morales has kind of looked to be a bit past it.
And you can just watch... Like, even if I watch that now, I can take an awful lot of it, especially in the next fight. Someone who jumps in, lunges and stuff. Morales does so many good things in that fight. So there's loads of things you can watch those guys still now and go, that's good, I like that, let me take a bit of that and learn from them. And so, yeah, very good.
Morales is he's got an exhibition. I don't know if you've seen it. He's doing an exhibition with Julio Cesar Chavez Sr.
He's Chavez Sr. As once you mentioned the exhibition, that's who I was going to talk about, because that guy's crazy, man. I've got pictures of him and stuff, and I've met him, and he's a lovely fella, but like, he's still fighting. He still has fights. He fights all these ex-pro world champions. Israel Vasquez, he fought recently and stuff as well, a few times, and they have like rivalries, but they just stand there and just go, take punches, throw punches like crazy, and you're going, fuck me, there's something different about them, isn't it? Like,
it's just something inbuilt in them, isn't it? You mentioned there kind of the machismo style of it, and it is very much like they wear it on their chest out there, and it's like that measure of pride, isn't it?
Yeah, and Chavez, obviously, he can't walk away from it ever. Like, he wants to be involved in it. Like, what is nice, and it has to be. He's got 60s.
I don't know how old he is. I think he's late 50s. Like, he's getting on though. But we were over in Acapulco at the WBC convention in November, and he was only there for the opening ceremony because he just gets mobbed. It's like, even now, like, they had people just swarming the stage after the press conference just to try and get near him, to try and get a photo of him and stuff like that. Really is something when you see it.
I was reading stories, and actually, when I was living in LA, I met this taxi man. He says, I actually drove him from LA to Mexico. He was on like a big drug bend, and like, he got this call, he needed to get out of it and get away from it. He says he picked him up. It was Chavez. Like, what the fuck? He's a Mexican. He's going, I've got thing. He's driving him. He says, like, he was talking away, he was fucked, and then he started to kind of come round. He says he left loads of money and everything for him, but he says as soon as they got into Mexico, he had like an armed guard come round the car and just like guide him into where he had to go to. He says it was one of the most surreal experiences of his life. He says he got out, Chavez got out and just like threw like loads of money. Then says, go, you're good, okay, thank you, go on. Yeah, fucking amazing. Those guys. I mean, like, Duran's another one from like in Panama. And like, Ricky Hatton tells that really funny story about Roberto Duran picking him up at the airport, and he was like his idol growing up, and he said Duran grabbed him. Have you ever met Duran? Yeah. He's mad, isn't he? Completely mad. Crazy, yeah. And he's exactly what you would want him to be like. Yeah. And Ricky says that he picked him up at Panama Airport, or he went to meet him at the gate, and he walked past all of the security, all of the things like that, and he was like, no, you're coming here. And they were sort of like calling him back, and he was turning around, you're coming through here. You just imagine it. Something about those like old, again, like the Hispanic legends, that sort of like that little, I guess, bit of crazy. I mean, boxers in general, as when you read about them and you hear all the mad stuff about them, and then you meet them and they live up to that expectation, you're going, wow, you feel like you're in a movie or something. And I remember we met Duran, me and Jamie, we both met him when I was in when I fought on the Pacquiao undercard in Australia against Jeff Warren. We met him there, and like, it was like, I don't know what time in the morning, it was really early in the morning, but he was like shouting and cheering. Got a picture of him and stuff, and he was like, he's a really nice guy, but you could tell he was crazy. And if you met him in his heyday, fuck me, you're in for some night, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now about fighting, I'm on a bit going out with him. You're in for some fucking night.
I don't know what would be more dangerous, having a night out with him or having a fight with him. Just kind of jumping around a little bit. You mentioned there about kind of the macho style and Barrera Morales and stuff. Is that why you kind of explored Manny Robles? I mean, like the way that you box now compared to the way that you turned over and started boxing are quite different.
Yeah, definitely. Completely different. No, I knew that, as a professional, I needed to kind of see that side of boxing. And when I did turn over, I signed with Top Rank. So I was of the assumption I need to be based here in America. I need to be training here in America, and the best place to train was Southern California. So I went over, and Matthew Macklin came with me, and he was like, "Let's go to Manny Robles' gym, try him out." I was meant to go around and try loads of coaches, and I went in and tried Manny out, and said, "I'll stay here." It's probably the wrong thing to do in a sense, where I could have looked a bit further and seen if there was different things that would have suited my style a bit more. But I just really like Manny as a person, as a coach, and everything. He was a great human being, and I knew that was the right fit for me at that time. And I'm glad I'd done it, because now when I look back, I've seen that side of boxing. I know how those fighters fight, and the shots that those kind of guys be looking for. It was a great gym to be in. I had Jesse Magdaleno, who fights this weekend, who's a good friend of mine, and I hope he wins this weekend.
It's a good fight.
I think he wins,
Yeah, it's a good fight. Ray Ford, he kind of blows hot and cold, doesn't he? He's had some fights where he's looked well, and then he's up the Aaron Perez fight. I think that was on the Chocolatito Estrada 2 card.
Yeah, I think.
And I thought Perez nicked that.
Yeah, I think Jesse beats him, because Jesse's a very good fighter. But then you had Oscar Valdez, and the type of sparring they were getting. You can't pay for that type of sparring. You gotta, if you're bringing them kind of guys in, you're paying a lot of money. You know what I mean?
You have to put them up.
It's all in the gym. And then even at that, because you're in Southern California, it's a hotbed for professional boxing. You've got world champions coming to the gym to get sparring from different parts of even Mexico and stuff coming up, and then you've got the Eastern Europeans all flooding in for training and sparring, training camps and sparring. So yeah, it was brilliant. It was a great experience, and I kind of knew before the year was even halfway that this isn't the style of boxing which I need to be doing. It's not how I fight. I'm not these kind of big Mexican style power punchers. I have more of kind of finesse in terms of boxing. So I knew I had to kind of come back, and if there was any coach I was coming back to, it was Adam Booth.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a different sort of grounding, doesn't it? Completely different to what you'd have been accustomed to in the amateurs, and of course what you're dealing with Adam now. Before we kind of jump back, I suppose, any memorable spars, any bits and pieces that you can stand out and remember from your time over there?
I had some great spars. I sparred some good guys. Sparred the likes of Oscar, Jesse, Danny Roman, Diego De La Hoya. There was a good lot. There's probably more that I'm missing out here, but there was some really, really good spars, really competitive spars, tough spars as well. How a lot of those guys spar, I think, is the reason they probably have short careers, because, I know that I was over there, I was young, obviously had massive ego coming out of the Olympics, and I was going into every spar going, well, I got to win a spar, I need to win here. And every single person sparring me is going, I'm going to take this cunt's head off because he thinks he's some superstar from Ireland who just was in the Olympics. He's an amateur, he's not a pro. So yeah, there was some very tough spars, but some very good spars as well.
How does it differ between the sparring there and the sparring that you get with Adam?
It's not that it's like my mindset's probably more different. I'm not going in trying to just compete and win spars and go to wars, because every spar is a war. You see some of the guys who I seen some guys over there who at the start of the year they were one fighter, at the end of the year they were a different person. The sparring probably took too much damage and done too much damage to their careers, and probably shortened their careers a lot, because some of the guys who I was sparring who are younger than me are retired already, you know what I mean? So it's probably just how people spar over there is competition. It's like a fight, but you're not getting paid to spar, so I think now it's more smart, and I do things. Everything is still very tough, and the spars are all still very competitive. It's not like I'm taking any easier type sparring. It's just I'm smarter and more efficient in my sparring than what I used to be.
Okay, right. Jumping back, I did say we're going to be jumping all over the place. Yeah. With your amateur career, you mentioned about your brothers and obviously your dad being heavily involved in boxing. When did the moment come where you thought, okay, actually, I'm going to really pursue this? Was it always like from the first time and before you'd even walked into the gym, that's what you wanted to do? Or was there kind of a moment?
No, because I don't know every sport. You know, you over here probably don't know GAA and stuff, the Gaelic football, hurling, soccer obviously, and then, you know, boxing. But it got to about 14, and the coach the main coach at the time said to me, you have to choose now. You have to, you know, dedicate yourself to one of them. I says, well, I'm probably a ringer in football because I'm so small. I'm playing for the year below. You know what I mean? So I was like, no, we're not going to go there. I was like, you don't really earn money playing GAA or hurling, so I think I'm good at boxing. I'll stick at boxing. And it was good from a young age. Like, the first year I won everything you could win in Ireland, and then took me off the ball a little bit and started thinking I was better than what I was, and like every kind of kid does. So I lost the first All-Ireland final. My first loss was an All-Ireland final. And then the same kind of thing happened to me the following year, and then I kind of started to knuckle down a bit, and, you know, once it kind of got serious for me, and once I kind of stepped away from things I was doing outside of boxing, which was, you know, getting up to no good outside of like family life and all that there, but behaving badly. It was when I was 16, and I was going to the Commonwealth Youth Games in India. Who was there? There was a lot of good fighters there. Josh Taylor was there. He got, I don't know what medal he got.
He got silver.
He got in the real Commonwealth Games, he got silver. The
youth, sorry.
Games, so that Daniel Chapman, he beat Jazzy Dickens in the final at the weight above me. But it was that competition which made me take it serious, because I was told you'll get drug tested. And I was like, oh shit, I've got to stop doing everything I'm doing. So that's what I kind of did. I stopped doing what I was doing and getting up to no good, and that's when I kind of taken it proper serious.
Just tell me, if you can, you mentioned there about the All-Ireland finals. Again, it's something that I spoke to Frampton and other people for around the time. What is it like atmosphere-wise with something like, we kind of had a brief conversation downstairs that, you know, sometimes in the amateurs you're in, you know, Bulgaria in like the deep dark depths, and there's not many more people than there are here for something like that. But I'm told, I've not been to an amateur show in Belfast, but I'm told it's quite different over there.
Yeah, in Ireland in general it is quite different. You know, there's the support is crazy, and the turnout at these shows is crazy. Throughout all ages, you know, from 11, I remember I was in the national final. My first year I ended up winning it, but like even that year it was packed. There's in a purposely built boxing arena, the only purposely built boxing arena in the world, I think it is the National Stadium in Dublin. And I was 27 kilos, 10 or 11, about this here size, in a 24-foot ring. You know, the ring's still that big. It's massive. It's huge. And yeah, the atmosphere is just unbelievable. Like, you're going there, and when you're from the north, you're like, it's going to be harder to win here because we're from the north, kind of thing. It's the way it always was, and the way the kind of mindset with a lot of people still is, but I don't think it is that now that kind of came through it all. But the finals, they're sold out events, you know what I mean? The semi-finals are sold out events, and when you get to the elite level as well, they're always sold out, and everybody comes to the sport. So it's how you build a fan base, you know, very early.
You mentioned obviously being from the north. I mean, you're a proud Irishman. You wear the tricolour very proudly. How much of an impact does, you know, the divide, I guess, have on you growing up, not just in boxing but also in your personal life? How prominent is it still?
I think boxing kind of takes away from it. You know, I know. Listen, I've got a lot of criticism over the years for things I've done and coming out of music and stuff, but it's never been to divide. It's been an audience who wants the kind of stuff which I've been doing, and it's the smart thing to do in this sport. You know, you got to build a fan base and, you know, make as much noise as possible. And what I've been doing is what I've been doing. But growing up, like, I've seen mad troubles. I've seen someone get hit with a petrol bomb and everything. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So, but has it affected me? No, not in the way where I could say, you know, I was traumatized or anything like that. It hasn't. And it has made me like dislike anybody or dislike, you know, a Protestant, because I'm a Catholic, or dislike Protestants. It doesn't. I just treat people how they treat me. So if you like me, I like you back, and that's where it's always been. But boxing is always kind of separated, because you're always combined. You're like, I've been away on trips throughout the amateurs. Protestant fellows does here, Catholic fellows it doesn't matter. You're the same team. You know, that's where it's always been.
Yeah, it's similar to what I've just spoke to Frampton about it, and he said it's kind of like, it's normal. It's kind of what you encounter from an early age. So it's not like you can't sort of say to somebody, oh, it did this, it did that, because it's just sort of how things were at the time.
Yeah, I said it's all it was. It was just life. You know what I mean? There was plenty of times I was probably up ratting and stuff when I was underage. Just throwing stones and stuff. I'm not fucking shooting guns or fucking doing anything like that. I was just like ratting and getting chases off the cops. It was all just adrenaline buzz, really, isn't it? Like, so there was never any like malice in it where I'm going, oh, I hate this, I hate that. It's drinking your own poison if you're going to hate people you don't even know, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Moving on, so you said around 16 you sort of started to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm kind of keen to talk to you about, really, somebody who's been synonymous with the success of not only Ireland's amateur team, but of course the USA in more recent years, is Billy Walsh, esteemed trainer. Yeah. Talk to me about Billy Walsh.
Yeah, Billy's a great guy. Just a great coach, but also a great man manager who can manage a team and understand each athlete individually. I remember him saying to me before we went to the 2012 Olympics, he was like, "You're not expected to do them. Don't worry. Your Olympics is going to be 2016. Just go out and enjoy yourself." And it just took a lot of pressure off me. Like I wasn't thinking about pressure anyway, but it was just like he kind of done it without me even knowing it, just saying stuff like that, and having me focus on something else instead of like worrying about getting medals and all this. But a great coach, a great manager, a great person. And when he left, I was very sad. I was disappointed. I was annoyed more than anything, because like I had just won the World Championships, and like I was going, right, getting the plaudits tonight. Come on, I'm loving this. This is brilliant. And then the whole thing switched because Billy went, "I'm leaving." I was like, "Oh, he's won the World Championship, but fuck you." He's just leaving, and we lost our greatest coach we've had. So it was sad when he left, but he's a fantastic coach, and I'm delighted for him. He's doing unbelievable with the US, and like he has revived US boxing, and it says a lot about him.
Yeah, if you think about the US were always kind of, you go back to the great teams. I think we've got him around here somewhere. Oh no, Pernell Whitaker's must be downstairs. The late Pernell Whitaker. You kind of look at the success he used to have in the 80s and the 90s, and then there's kind of like I think Andre Ward was the last major medalist. He was the last gold medalist. And then you look at what he did with Richard Torres and like people like that in recent times. He's obviously a revered coach, and anybody who you really come into contact with only has nice things and positive things to say about him.
Nah, he's a great coach, and he just knows how to make a team work, and that's obviously what he's done. He went to the US, and they went 2008, 2012. I think they got a medal. I think the Wilder got the bronze.
Yeah, of course, the bronze.
But I don't think they had anything. 2012 except women's.
And they had a good team as well in 2012. You look at the
women's Clarissa and stuff. She got gold. I think Marlon Esperanza got a medal, bronze probably. But the people on them teams, you got Wilder, you've got,
Spence was
on one, Rushy Warren, and all these guys on the teams, and they're not achieving what they're achieving. Look what they've done in the pros. So obviously there was something with the team set up or how they worked. I know that like club coaches were trying to be national coaches, and national coaches were being club coaches and different things like that. So obviously it wasn't structured enough, and Billy came in and brought the structure and set it up properly, and then look what they went and done in 2016.
You mentioned sort of 2012 and not having that pressure on you. Did you feel happy with the bronze? Were you disappointed?
I was devastated, heartbroken. I was like, there's an interview, I think it's still on YouTube somewhere. I'm crying my eyes out. I'm sorry I let everybody down. I was only 20, I think, or 21, or 20, and I was proper heartbroken. Now I won bronze, but I was expecting to win gold, and that's the way it was. And I just came up against a fighter, Rubicio Ramirez.
He's not bad, yeah.
Yeah, he had, even though I was older than him, he had way more experience than me in terms of like international pedigree and stuff. Because like I didn't properly get selected for a national team, an Irish team, until I was senior. You know what I mean? So, he obviously came through the underage system and had loads of fights internationally. He had way more experience than me, and he beat me fair square, and I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's some talent, and we'll come on to kind of talk about him. Just on that Cuban style of things, I mean, people who may be not as familiar with obviously the amateur setup as you are, it's sort of a rite of passage. They have hundreds of kids all training barefoot, learning stuff, and it's literally only the strongest survive over there. It's such it's not even sport over there. It's such a part of the culture in Cuba, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, it's unbelievable. And how they do it, obviously you remember the show it was on, I think it was on BBC, was it? Not too long ago. It was talking, looking at 3 fighters and stuff.
One of them turned over for Christian Martinez, I think his name was.
They were watching like what they eat and stuff, and they were like trying to go away and get donuts and all that. Like obviously, it's tough, but it's structured, and like the best thing I think about Robesi's story is his escape and how he got out, and like having, like when he first tried to escape, having the Olympic tattoo removed from his arm, and they had to remove it from his arm and everything. It's hard, man. So the fact that they're coming through that stuff, it must be tough there, and it shows because their pedigree is unbelievable. Their skill and talent is unbelievable. They just know so much, and it's just so natural to them. It's second nature. So obviously they're doing it from when they're in the womb, like, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not just when people kind of talk about it. It's different. I think he spoke about it quite well recently, because obviously he just won a world title against Isaac Dogboe. But I think people kind of maybe don't understand just what actually goes into to defecting. Kind of spoke to Salas about it in the past, and other fighters, and it's not just a case of, you know, jumping on Skyscanner and booking a flight, is it?
Nah, you can't. It's a proper mission, isn't it? Like, it's, you know, you got to be like military to kind of get through that kind of stuff, and obviously there's people on the outside who can help gauge you, and when you get away, be your minders and stuff. And you've seen it when Robesi actually came, you know, he wasn't ready in the head for what he was doing. He was just training and ended up going this first fight and losing, but you've seen how well he's kind of recouped from that and restructured his whole career, so fair play to him.
While we're on kind of Cubans and great amateurs, did you see Rigondo when he came over to Belfast? It was 2001.
Yeah, I was there at the World Championships. Unbelievable.
He was. That's like, people kind of talk about Rigondo as he's developed over the years.
Yeah, no, that was prime. I have a picture of him back then, where I'm only a kid. I'm like this here and stuff, but he was unbelievable.
Amazing fighter.
Even as a pro, still, like, even still now, he could beat most of the guys. I think he's just so talented, so hard to hit. People go like it's boring and stuff, and I get what they're saying, because it's not like mad excitement. It's just he's making you miss and hitting you, and he's not like the biggest puncher in the world, but he can punch really hard and he hurts everybody he hits. So yeah, he's a special fighter.
I remember he came over and boxed Jazza Dickens. With the sound of that shot,
broke his jaw. Seen that. I was there. I was on the undercard of, it was co-main event actually for him versus Loma.
Oh right, yeah. That was a bit of a shame seeing that, because he was just too small.
Too small. Loma's not a big. He's not even a big featherweight. He should probably be a featherweight. That's probably his natural division. So him fighting up a lightweight is, you know, him pushing his boundaries so far. So you gotta respect Loma for that, because he's unbelievable as well. But like, them two are just two of my favourite amateurs of all time. Like,
yeah, I think that fight kind of encapsulates the whole "a good big un beats a good little un."
Yeah.
Definitely, I think, because Rigo, even like as a pro, I mean, he's gone down to bantam now. He should have always really been there as a pro, but couldn't get the fights there. Boxed up at super bantam. Actually had the Donaire fight in the office with that, you know, big screen that we've got down there. So to the guys, watch this guy. And it's like, but he's not doing anything. I was like, fuck.
It's crazy, like how easy made Donaire look.
And at the time, Donaire was like the third best fighter in the world.
That was when he was in the pound for pound, like Donaire, and then like, no, I think as well, Frampton's win over Donaire is overlooked, because look what he went and done after that, and he's went and fucking ended up fighting Inoue and stuff, getting to the final of the Super Series, beating Ram Burnett, beating all these other guys, and he's a special fighter too, isn't he?
Was Robesi the best that you faced in the amateurs?
I don't know, like in that fight, I actually thought I done really well. I thought the scoring was a bit mad, because it was that take guard scoring where one thing about him, he had a good take guard, has his hands up and covered his whole body. So it was hard to kind of land clean him, but I was, in the first round, I was throwing like crazy. And looking back on it, like in the last round, I ended up getting a stand count, but I don't know why. I was just tired. I said, I shouldn't even have got a stand count for it. It was like kind of going backwards and then give me a count. But I fought a lot of good fighters. I couldn't pick who's the best, because I had so many fights and they were all top level, like, you know what I mean? So I don't know who would have been the best. He'd be up there, like he'd actually be in the top 3.
One of the fighters I'm always keen to speak to people about, who's kind of shared the ring with him, particularly as an amateur, didn't quite transfer into the pro game, Andrew Selby.
Only person ever to beat me 3 times.
Yeah. How good was Andrew Selby?
Very, very good. The first fight and the last fight, I don't take as defeat. He beat me in the first fight 25-24 in the World Championships. I would have got a medal in. beat me 25, 24. And he's like, after, it's the hardest fight I've ever had. I was like, yeah, well, I wasn't the hardest fight I had. I thought I won. It's like, I was disgusted. And then the second fight, he beat me in WSB, and he beat me fair score in WSB. But and then in the European final, he fought, and he beat me 2-1 split decision. I was like, fuck's sake, this bastard. Unbelievable fighter. Like, people talk about me switching. He could switch way better than me. And it was just so fluent to him. Like, he could switch back. Wasn't the biggest puncher at all. Like, he didn't really have anything in his hands, but his speed is probably the fastest hands I've been in the ring with. Apart from, I still praise you, Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor's probably the fastest hand, one of the fastest hands I've been in the ring with. Selby probably the fastest. Yeah, he's so fluent. His movement. He would be going this way, switch out ways. All I remember was Lee Pullen, the GB coach. He's still a GB coach now. The only thing they kept shouting was, "Don't stop moving your feet, keep moving your feet." So they're obviously like, "You need to beat him." Because I was actually coming forward against Sylvia. I wasn't trying to box or anything. I was coming forward. I was switching stances, and anytime he held his feet, I was landing. But he never held his feet, and they kept shouting at him. And that was the only thing. There was no tactics. Just keep moving your feet. And there was like non-stop drawing it in because he could throw his hands and he had so much speed. But yeah, very, very, very good fighter. Disappointed to see how it kind of went from in the pros. He took a lot of risks, going to fight. It was crazy the fact that they went to fight Martinez yeah. in Mexico, like, you know what I mean, at altitude as well. So some probably bad management decisions there. But I suppose that's what happens when you believe in your fighter so much.
Yeah, and particularly somebody like him who, as much as we all kind of know, he's had some yeah. issues outside of the ring in his time. But when you're such a talented fighter and you get the opportunity to box somebody like that. And he
obviously fought all over the world. So, people, they're probably going, maybe not. But I think there could have been a better way. And he could be world champion as a professional. He could have been world champion as a professional if they had been smarter with the route.
So you won the Europeans.
Yeah.
And then you go to the Worlds in 2015.
Yeah.
Describe the feeling of going into that. You must have been high on confidence. You've already talked about kind of being devastated in 2012 by not getting the gold there. Did you fully believe that you were going to become Ireland's first ever male world champion in that tournament?
I'm not lying to you. The whole time, the whole competition, I was saying, I'm already world champion. I was saying the whole team. Because I was reading The Secret at the time. I was making me read The Secret, and I was like, fuck it, you know what? I'm going full in this. And I did go full in it. Like, when I went to the Europeans, I went with 2 weeks actual like sparring and stuff. I was on holiday in Portugal. I'd already qualified for Olympics through WSB. And Billy Walsh rang me and said my flatmate and I, Kurt Walker, and one of my own fighters who I'm managing, he says, we're going to send Kurt to the Europeans. If he qualifies for the Worlds and goes to the Worlds and qualifies for the Olympics, you're going to have a box off. And I says, sitting there with paint, I was like, nah, I'm going to go. I was like, what? I says, I'll just start running the L. So I was over on holiday. I was in Portugal. So I started doing runs for the next 6 days or something. The rest of him was there. Came back. I was fighting 56 kilos. I was 63, I think, or 64. Had 2 weeks of training.
How was that?
It was tough. It was really tough. Because in the amateurs, it's not like the pros where you can just cut once and then you're back up again. You have to get it down. So I was training like crazy. Top off, snare every night, sparring, all out there. It was like every day in that competition in the Europeans, because I only had that training. I was like, get up in the morning, training, hop off, cool down, ice bath, train, like just non-stop like that. I says about winning when I went there. I had 2 weeks notice, so 2 weeks training, proper sparring. I went and won them. So I was like, if I'd done this for 2 weeks, I'm going to win the World Championships. I was reading this book and I was going, 100%, I'm already world champion, I'm just going to pick it up. The whole time the competition was doing this. And I was sure probably some of the fucking people on the team were going, he's a dickhead, this cunt. But I was just like, fuck it, I'm already world champion. They were like, really? Yeah. Ended up getting to the final, winning it. And the only thing was when I won it was when I got dropped in the last round against Murder, who's already unified world champion.
I was about to say, boxing this weekend.
I was more embarrassed standing on the podium because I got dropped than even like elated to win the world championships. I was like, oh, fuck, it's embarrassment. I swear to God, I was like, I've just made proper history, especially in Irish boxing, like how big of a history it is. I was sitting there going, fuck's sake. And the people, you've won the house. I don't think I dropped. It's fucking disgusting. Disgusting. Never been there in my life. That was the first time. I was like, oh, heartbreaking. But obviously, once it all settled, I was going, I've fucking just done something that nobody's done, and nobody's done to this day still. So.
Making that history, coming back after you'd got over the fact that you got dropped, what was that like? How were you received when you returned home?
It was crazy. Won fucking every award possible at home. Won basically the spotty version in Ireland, the RTO awards. Won that. Won the ones, the Belfast Telegraph awards in the north. It's just everything. Everybody was around me, and it was like praising you. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was thinking, and like confident. Yep, 100%. I'll go to the Olympics. I'll win the Olympics, one gold there, and then I'll go pro. And it was just like steamrolled on. And I was like, I just qualified for Olympics twice because I qualified for WSB. Then obviously won the World Championships, qualified through that. And like, this is guaranteed. I'm going here just to pick up my medal, pick up my gold. And then obviously everything happened since.
Everything happened since, indeed. I remember you going in there being kind of like the favourite for the gold. Does that change your preparation at all? I mean, does it give you more confidence? Or
it gives you more confidence, yes. But like, one thing about me, and I think anybody will tell you about me, is how hard I work. Like, I'm not one who takes anything easy. I try to push as hard as I can, and I have to be kind of told pull it back. But yeah, I train hard anyway, so it wasn't changing my mentality. I was going to believe I was going to win, so it made me train harder probably to make sure that happened.
Had the now infamous loss to Nikitin, whatever, in inverted commas. I think we all know what was going through your head at the time. It didn't go through your head, it came out your mouth. But is that the most angry that you've been, certainly with the sport?
Yeah. Listen, my goal when I started boxing was to become an Olympic champion. It wasn't to become world champion as pro. That's something that's kind of came along throughout when I was boxing. But yeah, it was always to be Olympic champion. The first memory kind of properly I have of boxing was watching, I think, the 2004 Olympics. Amir Khan and Andy Lee. So I was like said to my man dad at the time, I'll be there one day. Obviously done that in 2012 and medalled, but then I was told by Billy, listen, your Olympics is 2016. I was like, I'm gonna win gold there. So that was my dream, and when it was ripped away from me, obviously couldn't control what came out of my mouth, and I didn't know everything that the coaches knew because they were already told a few days before. I just spoke from the heart and called out corruption without being 100% certain that there was corruption, but the team already knew there was corruption.
I mean, if you look at the state of amateur boxing at the minute, it's such a massive shame. I mean, it's kind of every other month now we're getting more and more damning news about the amateurs and the Olympics. As somebody who's kind of a product of the amateur system, both success and, of course, disappointment. How disappointing is it to see what's currently going on with AIBA and IBA and Kremlev and all of the stuff that's going on?
It's terrible. The fact that boxing is on the cusp of being booted from the Olympics, it is officially apparently out already, but they're going to try and get it back in or try and get it reinstated, whatever it is. It's terrible, and how detrimental it will be for boxing as a whole, amateur and professional, if it is removed from the Olympics. It's going to be really bad. I think the standard, the quality and everything is just going to drop because everybody aspires to go to the Olympics and do that there, and boxing's been involved in the Olympics from the first games, I think. So the fact that it's going to go, I think kids don't have as much to drive to go professional without having that kind of amateur pedigree, which you see from the best professionals, the majority of them, they all have that kind of mad pedigree. So yeah, I think it's terrible, and if it does happen, the sport could be in a bad way in a few years. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you mentioned there about 2004 and seeing Amir Khan and Andy Lee and stuff. Like, people are not going to get their moment where they see the next Irish or medalist or the next Olympic champion and being inspired by it. So hopefully they sort the mess out, because it seems as though, as you mentioned there, that at the minute it's not looking good.
And they seem to just keep shooting themselves in the foot. Obviously Kremlin and him being the head of Russian boxing and the head of AIBA boxing isn't doing any favours and just keeps going basically fuck you to everybody else. So it's sad. I know that some teams boycotted like the Women's World Championships and all recently. I don't know what it's going to take for that to make it happen, but with these people in power, I don't know. Amateur boxing's always been corrupt. It's been corrupt from before I was hound the bat, but like you look back to Roy Jones and even probably further back than that, there's always been corruption involved in the sport, but now it just looks like it's getting more blatant, and that's why they're saying see you later.
I mean, they did Tokyo without AIBA involvement, which I thought it worked actually quite well. It was one of the better tournaments.
Yeah, I think so, but were they really not involved? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's still probably who's the referees and stuff. Were they associated to? Are they associated to AIBA? Yes, of course. So, like, they aren't involved, but they are involved in a way, because these referees and judges and stuff come through IBA, isn't it? It's called. So that's it's not really going to change.
So you get robbed in the Olympics. You give the infamous Michael Conlan double bird to all of the judges, and you do that interview, which is still one of the best interviews I've seen in boxing. How soon does the phone start ringing after them for pro?
Before even left Rio, I got a message from what's his name, James, but he was working with Top Rank. Well, he was like helping out at Top Rank at the time. He's an Irish guy from just beside Newry, Warren Point, I think it is in the north. And he says, "Here, my name's James." I forget his fucking second name. His second name. He's like, "Top Rank wants to speak to you." I was like, "Who the fuck's this? Some can't mess me about." It's like, right, sound. I was already speaking to Macklin. I was like, would you be looking, because he obviously before I even turned pro, he was talking to me and stuff, talking about like and begging me up on Twitter and all that, obviously probably half grooming me a little bit. I want to be his manager kind of thing. So I was like, Top Rank around me, and he's like, all right, sound, what are they saying? I says, they wanna say me and stuff. He's like, go here, let me reach out, because obviously he knew who it was, and he reached out and found out, and like Top Rank was there, Warren had put offers in. He put offers in before the Olympics and everything. Never got an offer from Eddie. And I think he half regrets that at the time now, looking at what happened since. But no, there was no matchroom offer. Golden Boy were reaching out. Someone from Mayweather's team reached out. When people were making up stories that I was going to Vegas. I'd booked Vegas before the Olympics. Me and the missus were going to go. I ended up sending my Top Rank deal when I was there. But people were like, he's going to Vegas to the same with Mayweather and stuff. I was like, fuck me, like what the fuck? People just like make up so much false stuff online. But yeah, like the Top Rank deal, I added everything up from all the deals, and financially it was the best. Their plan was the best. As soon as like they said to me, like, we'll make your debut. They said, we'll make your debut in the Pacquiao undercard. And I was like, oh, I love my Pacquiao. Fuck, I would love that. And then one of them went, no, let's make your debut on St. Patrick's Day in the Garden. And I was like, I was half already going, I was trying to be as quiet as possible. I was like, I'll say right now. You're fucking saying right now.
You don't want to give too much away, do you? But,
I'll say right now. I was like, and then once we kind of got everything right and stuff, I was like, yeah, this is the one. So listen, they've done a great job. I'm still with them. 6 years now, so 6 years on, I'm still with them. So they haven't done wrong by me, and I'm happy enough.
It has to be like the holy grail for for most fighters in general to box at Madison Square Garden, but for an Irish fighter to box at MSG on St. Patrick's Day weekend on your debut, you couldn't really write it any better than that.
In a 6-round event, a 6-round main event, at the Garden, and then adding the mix Conor McGregor, who at the time was the biggest name in combat sports.
He was one of the biggest stars in the world outside of sport at the time, wasn't he? He was right at that sweet spot, wasn't it? When they were talking about them. I remember the interview where
that's where he announced himself, wasn't it, against Mayweather? He's like, I'm boxing and all this here shit.
Fuck it was brilliant.
So I was listening. That was unbelievable. Looking back on that, it's a complete blur, because I remember I was sitting there getting my hands rubbed because it was in the theatre, so the change rooms are probably the smallest you'll ever imagine. I mean, like literally a box. So I get my hands up. Next, McGregor, like Conor's coming. Okay, it says fucking comes in with 12 people, and he's this right. Get in that flow state, baby. Yeah, all this here, no fucking like just talking like crazy. Yeah, I was going, I've got a fucking fight. I was half going, this is a new sport. I'm fighting someone who's 4-4 years, but smaller gloves. I've never been hit by a fucking glove like this. I don't like this guy's has won 4 fights in pro boxing. I've never had a pro fight. This is a completely different sport. I'm shitting myself. And then next minute I'm walking the ring, I was like, I haven't even warmed up. I was like, what the fuck? And I told everybody, because I think there was like suspicious betting and everything called in this, but before the whole thing, watch any of the interviews, I'm saying I'll knock him out in the 3rd round. So like I told him it's 3rd round. So obviously loads of money put on. Fuck's sake, 3rd round comes, I'm like, I need to get him out of here or I'm gonna be in trouble. I'm just throwing punches, trying to get it finished as soon as possible. I was like, fuck, get this over, get it over. And I get stopped and I was like, thank fuck. Jesus Christ, I'd have been in trouble. It must be why I told 3rd round.
Yeah, blowing out your arse.
But it was like, looking back on it, the performance and all was horrendous.
Do you think that played a factor?
Definitely. Everything that not just saying people 3rd round, but I think just had no warm up. Like everything was just a blur. It was so much that like the media week that week for a debut. I was doing Good Morning America with Benny Blanco from the Bronx.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was going, what the fuck's going on here? I'm meeting all these celebrities and doing all this stuff in the garden at the basketball and all the nights before, going, what's going on? I've never had this, even though I've been a massive star in Irish boxing as an amateur. Professional boxing is completely different, and this is like when you watch McGregor doing all the like their 24/7 or whatever, it's real time, is it? No, it's Top Ranks one, the MMA one, the UFC one. I was going, look at the media stuff he's doing. I feel like I'm doing the exact same thing here, and that's what I was that week. Like I swear to God, it was that crazy. Like having the like, then even after winning, going and walking in St. Paddy's Day parades and stuff, and I was like, I just want to go home and go to bed. I just want to put my head down. This is fucking too much. But it was crazy, and it was a good experience. And I suppose it kind of opened my eyes and got me ready for, you know, big fight weeks before I even was in any of it. So it's a good thing.
How did the McGregor thing come about?
So McGregor reached out to me after I won the World Championships and was like, congrats from one World Champion there all this year. I was like, fuck me, Conor McGregor reached out 2015. He's just after winning, you know, UFC championships and all this year. So I'm going, wow. But then throughout that, he fought Nate Diaz. I got him the sparring partner in the rematch. I got him Connor Wallace. He needed a tall southpaw. I says, I've got the perfect guy. He reached out to me. I says, I've got the perfect guy for you. Bang. He ended up bringing him to Vegas, done the full camp and all of him. He ended up winning that fight, the rematch, and then so we kept in touch all the time. And then before the Olympics, he gave me the Reebok boxing boots. You couldn't buy them at the time, couldn't you? And I was like, fucking brilliant. I was like, oh, where he's so I was happy enough to stay in touch. And then he was doing an event in the 2016 December or November in Belfast, and like a speaking event. And I was invited up on stage to speak to him. Yeah, I had a few drinks, man. I was in front of everybody, about 2,500 people. I was just, listen, what do you think about walking me out on my debut? And I was like, you've got it, brother. I was like, yes. I was just put him under pressure in front of everybody. He had to say yes. So once he said yes, I was like, brilliant. So it was that was it. And he came and done it. So you gotta respect that. Like,
are you still in touch at all?
The old time, just not much. Not like after the Floyd thing, he became probably uncontactable in a sense, where he's Conor McGregor, and he's like a mega star, and still reach out, he still wish you luck and stuff, and still would like comment on their things and all that, but I wouldn't be in contact daily, no.
What did you make of his performance against Mayweather?
Like I think like it's probably one of the reasons he helped stop really chatting as much as what we used to, because I says before the fight, I says, listen, I'm a boxer. It's Floyd Mayweather. The best in the world boxers can't be Floyd Mayweather. I don't think Conor can. Who knows? But I don't think he can. I don't think he like that. But he done well. And Floyd fucking, he played the whole thing up as well. And went 10 rounds, you're going, fuck me, he's went 10 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. So from the outside, you're going, wow. But half inside, you're going, was that really like that? Or I don't know. But, it was great to see. And it was a bank robbery for both of them, so they were delighted.
Oh, yeah, I remember Floyd coming out with the
belly on.
That was really good. It was one of his better ring walks.
Yeah.
I much prefer that to some of the cheesy ones that he did back in the day with Top Rank.
Or he's wearing the gold on. That was his own ones, wasn't it, actually?
Yeah. So that was an interesting fight week. That was Mayweather versus McGregor.
Unbelievable.
What they did was
the press conferences is unbelievable. How they sold the fight was unbelievable. How they had people sitting on the fence was unbelievable, which was basically guaranteed money, but it was just unbelievable to watch how it all went.
I remember at the time, I didn't have any money. I was skint, and I was trying to beg, borrow, and steal from gamble responsibly, of course, but try to beg, borrow, and steal from it. I was like, Mayweather's 4-1 on to win the fight. Just any method, 4-1 on. And I think he was 11-8 on for the stoppage. And I remember thinking at the time, like, I was telling everybody, I was like, you will never get a better price in the history of in sports betting than Mayweather any method. What was he, 4-1 on? That means that 1 out of 5 times they're saying McGregor's going to win. And I don't have to be as diplomatic as you. I don't think he wins 1 out of 100 if he boxes Floyd Mayweather.
That's Floyd Mayweather. He's unbelievable. I watched him recently against Arn Chalmers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I was in the corner, and he was talking the whole time to the corner and stuff. He was like, "What do you want me to hit him with?" He's like, "Do I hit him with left? Do I hit him with right? Can we switch?" I just went, "Hit him with left. Don't hit him with right." And then I was talking to him after. He was like, "You're a fighter, aren't you?" I said, "She just fought for the title." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, don't worry, champ, be back on all this here." I was like, "Fuck me, Floyd Mayweather just basically recognised me." I was like, he's the greatest now. half jumping on the goat curtail. So
I must have been an experience watching him up close and personal. Even at this age, he's still got the moves, isn't he?
I still think he could beat many world champions. He's unbelievable. So fast. It's just his movement, everything. I know he's not fighting anybody in terms of Arn's not a boxer, you know what I mean? Arn's someone who done a bit of MMA and then has kind of came into boxing, but he's not a boxer. He hasn't boxed. He doesn't have any amateur pedigree or anything like that. And Floyd just was Floyd. He's just special. Even still now, like the shot selection, the picking the shots, just how he was just playing with someone who was just trying to hit him. It was class. I know you can't judge him off any of that, but I was going, I reckon he could still beat some world champions. Just looking at his speed and his movement, you're going, he could, like.
It's like trying to, we talked about it earlier on, having that like kind of that young schooling, even like before you go to the gym, like obviously his uncle boxed, his dad boxed, like as soon as he could stand up, he'd have had gloves on him, and you just can't ever account for. I mean, I know there's some fighters who don't have that and they still make a great career out of themselves, but we spoke about it before about the amateur schooling and having that from the start, being really reared that way. It's so difficult for anybody, let alone somebody, as you mentioned, Aaron, who's not a boxer, to ever bridge that gap.
Nah, I think it's near impossible for someone like Arn to do that. So when you watch, like as you said, from the school and stuff, when you just watch how Floyd just moved, he didn't have to throw. He wouldn't have to throw a punch, and Arn could throw 100 punches, and he still probably would have won the fight if it was a point scoring fight or anything like that, or if you were judging it. He could still say he wins just by looking better and moving better. But yeah, listen, when you have that kind of amateur pedigree, like I think when you watch a good amateur even against good pros and stuff, you can just see the difference compared to someone who doesn't have it. Just that natural ability.
So jumping back and around again, we're back now to when you were with Manny Robles. What was the decision? You came back after 5 fights.
Yeah.
What was the reason for you to relocate?
So there's a few reasons. Listen, I was like, I knew it wasn't the style for me. First and foremost was one of them, but the main reason was, because I probably still could have stayed there and probably would have stayed there, but my missus was pregnant with her second one, and we were already over there. We did have nobody there. Like you're there in LA. There's no real Irish community. Like if I was in New York, it probably would have been much easier because there's so much Irish there, but there wasn't really much Irish. So like, I was full-time boxing. I wasn't being a father really. Like I was too busy doing what I was doing. I was coming to the gym, get in the morning, going to the gym, coming back, resting, having food, going to the gym again, coming back. So that was my life for every kind of day, except like for a week after a fight. And she had to handle with my daughter, but she was happy enough, and she probably would have wanted to stay, but it was me saying, listen, there's going to be another one. It's going to be much tougher. I'd rather go back and have a good family support system around us, the help, because I'm going to be away. I'm going to be training. I'm useless, like, you know, at the minute. So that was the real reason, was like, you know, another baby on the way. Let's go back and raise a family properly.
Was it straight to Adam Booth? Or was it at the time, Burnett would have been there at the time.
Burnett was there.
Did you speak to him before? Andy Lee would have been around there?
I didn't speak to Andy of him. I just says, like, if I was going back, if I am going back, I says, there's only one coach I'll train with. That's Adam. If not, I'm going to have to stay somewhere in America. So I reached out to Adam and says, come do like a trial period. So I went over for a week, done a trial week, and it was like, yeah, I'm happy. I want to be here. I think this is where I need to be. In that week, because I had to move all my stuff, I went over to LA, moved all my stuff, and like got all my money to the bank and all there. Everything's saying on check, so I'll come to my bank. So that when you're leaving and your bank account's closed, they give you like a cashier's or a banker's check, whatever it is. But anybody can cash this check. I lost the check.
Oh.
All my money on it. I was like, I don't know where I fucking put this check. So I came back. I'd done the week with training with Adam. I went over to LA, moved out, came back, realised within a day that I've lost this check. So I had to get up on Friday morning, go to Dublin, get a flight or Ethiopia. It was fucking horrendous. Fly to LA, went to the bank, because they says, come over and we'll get it sorted. I says, I'm in Ireland. This is just, well, the only way you can do it is you go to the bank. Went to the bank, says, actually, there's nothing we can do. Says, if nobody cashes the check in 90 days, you'll be okay. But someone could change his check and forwards and stuff, and you'll lose all your money. I was like, oh, fuck's sake. I was crying in the bank. I was like, what the fuck? What am I going to do? That's all my money. Everything. Oh. So I was going, fuck me. I'm done. And then, so I got to the bank. Anyway, I was there for like 6 hours or something, because by the time I left it early in the morning, I got there, it was 12 o'clock in the day. The bank closed at 5. I had a return flight at 9. So it was like I travelled across the LA and back in like 36 hours or under. It was horrendous. They says they couldn't do anything. I was like, I'm fucked. So went back anyway, moved into the apartment in Surrey, and was unloading my bag and found it in my bag. I was like, for fuck's sake, I just fucking went all the way, done this round trip, put myself through a mad panic, and it was in a top zip where I usually put everything. It was in the top zip, and it was, for some reason I didn't check the zip. I don't know why, but I just done a mad fucking journey, and like the whole hassle of it all. Like, I actually tried to book business class in the way it works. I'm like, I'll do this because this is going to be melting in my head. They tried the big business class twice. They took it in my account twice, and they wouldn't go through. It didn't go through, but they took the money out twice. Ended up getting the way back, but it was horrendous. It was still horrendous.
Sort of like caught between the overwhelming relief of finding it and just being so pissed off that you've gone through all of this to get
wasted
there.
So much money doing it as well. I was going like, when I was wasting a lot of money doing it, I was like, I don't have all this money to spend. All my money is gone. It's gone. But yeah, that was a crazy old trip. Like, I've had some fucking crazy things happen over the years, like throughout boxing.
What was it about Adam Booth? You said that if you're coming back to the UK, you're gonna box with one trainer. It has to be him. Why was that? And why was it the fit, I guess?
Is the technical side of boxing and how he breaks down fights and how he coaches, how focused he is on his own fighter and what they do was what fitted for me. You know, I'm all about the hit and not get hit style. That's how I've always boxed. Obviously, I went to a Mexican type style for a while, and I knew I needed to get back to where, you know, I was best, and that was that kind of style which Adam had with all his fighters. So that was the kind of reason I went there, and then as soon as I went there, like, I felt like I was learning how to box again. It was like, I'm shit here. What's going on? I couldn't throw a jab properly. I couldn't do things properly. I was like, you're all these little mistakes you're making are just wrong, and you don't even understand it. So having to understand the boxing, he's teaching me all the little things, and I was just like, yeah, I like it. And his philosophies around boxing and stuff was like, yeah, that's what I like.
mentioned there about kind of the technical side of things and the philosophical side of things.
Yeah.
One of the things I always like to speak to booth fighters is about the mental preparation and just how good he is at getting inside the fighter's mind and saying the right things and I guess that man management side of things.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. How much does he give to you from a mental perspective as well as a technical?
Yeah, he's just very smart. He's been around the game and he knows how to handle situations and how to approach fights and how to work with his fighters. You know what I mean? There's some fighters who probably need, like geeing up or calming down. Probably I'd be more on the calming down side of things. But yeah, he's very smart on approaches in terms of fights. What way to enter them, what way to focus on them, and like working on things throughout your career to make you a better fighter at the end of your career again, or throughout your career. Like there's things there we've been working on in some fights where I probably look shit, but I've been actually just working on something and people are going, oh, he's fucking shit, he done this, he done that. But it's like, no, actually that was very good for me. But even though you think it's shit, for me that's what I needed, because it's helped me learn a different tool in my add a different tool in my toolbox. So he's very good like that.
Do you pay much attention to, I mean, you've been in the spotlight for such a long time at a high level, both amateur and pro. Do you pay much attention to kind of outside criticism, or is it something that you've learnt to deal with over the years? Or you can be quite outspoken at times, even now.
Listen, it's something I've had to learn to deal with. I've had to learn to deal with. Sometimes, I would, before I would have got caught up on, like, I would have gotten Twitter arguments and stuff. Someone says something, I'd reply saying, sure, what the fuck do you mean? What do you know? But now I've realised that you can't let that affect you. And I think throughout actually my first year as a pro, it affected me a lot. People talk so much shit about me. Look, obviously they were expecting so much with me coming in with such a high pedigree from the amateurs. But like how I always explain it, it's like you're learning a completely new sport. Like I've boxed, at that time I think I'd boxed 18 years as an amateur and perfecting a fucking amateur style, and then the flip change that to go Mexican style. It was completely different sport. So the criticism and stuff I got at the start, I'll be honest, it did affect me. Like it did affect me. Like I wouldn't say it affected my mental health, but it affected how I performed. It made me try to focus on trying to knock people out and stuff. And I'm like, that's not how I box, and that's why it's not happening. It's because you're trying to just let it happen. And I'm like, in terms of like social media and stuff, I take a back step from it all now. Really, like I don't really use anything, Twitter and all. The only thing I use them for is like announcement, no fight, bang, done. I don't go on to them and like sit and read through comments. Sometimes I will, but not much.
Well, I think Michael Conlan, I always think kind of Falls Park, big, like massive spectacle. What's that like? I mean, certainly the first time you boxed there as a pro, coming out and seeing it, like we've all seen the pictures and it looks unbelievable. Explain to me, if you can, what that's like.
It was unbelievable. Like that park, so that park is one of the parks I grew up in. Like getting mentioned off from school, that was one of the parks we all went to, and like I've had shits in that park, you know what I mean? Like, you can't go anywhere else, you know what I mean? You're on the beak from school, so I've fucking took drugs in that park, get up to so much bad shit in that park, have fights in that park where I haven't been paid, and the next minute I'm fighting in a park where I've done all this shit, but now I'm getting paid too, and I have thousands of my own people, friends, family, community, all there to support me, and you're walking out. And like, seeing you go into the park when there's nothing there, it's like, oh, it's nice grass, sound. But you walk out and it's an arena, you're going, what the fuck? This is unbelievable. These are all here to see me. Like that's why if you watch each time I fought there, when I'm on that stage, I actually just take it in. Especially the last time I took it in proper. I really, really enjoyed it. Like the whole crowd singing Grace and stuff. It was like hers in the back of your neck stand up, and you're going, wow, this is fucking unbelievable.
You've obviously boxed around the world as an amateur. You've boxed there, you've boxed at MSG. Is there one that you've still got to tick off of the bucket list? Is there one that you still want to do?
No, I've done them all. I've done them all, really. Like if I think about it, like I've done the MEN here in England. I've done York Hall, so for the small hall ones, that's one of the ones ticked off. Obviously done the Park, done the Odyssey, done MSG, done Vegas. I've done I've done it fucking Australia, so like it's crazy. I've boxed all over the world. There's not really somewhere where I can go, oh, I love the fight there. I just like fighting in the Garden, so I'm looking forward to getting back there probably towards the end of the year.
Fast forwarding to the Nikitin rematch in the pros. How much did that mean to you to get that win, particularly after everything? Obviously, lost to him a couple of times in the amateurs. How does it feel to get? I say again, lost.
Yeah,
kind of using
even the first time I thought I won. It was closer, obviously, and he could have got the decision, but like I thought I won that fight. I suppose when you listen to me talk, I probably think I won every fight. I fought, like,
yeah, but most fighters do, to be fair.
It's just annoying. But yeah, listen, there was nothing. Even though it happened, it was never personal between me and Vladimir. Like, and like I've said since, and I still say now, like if they said to me, "Listen, we're going to give you an Olympic medal, but we have to take it away from Vladimir," I'd say, "Nah, listen, that's his. He won that. It wasn't him that made the judging." And you know what? I could tell the relief as well after we fought, that he was relieved it was over, because his career is obviously being remembered for the decision against me and all the stuff that's happened in the build up and all that there, where I was talking like all this shit, but like he was always like messaging me going like thumbs up, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, he's a nice guy. And it's not against him. And I said, listen, it's over. Shook his hand and stuff after, but it was great like to get the win. And I suppose it was nothing new to me. I knew I was going to win, and I knew I was going to win well. But it was just good to get it done, and especially in the Garden, in the big room, on a triple-headed card with me, Crawford, and Teofimo, and the night Teofimo became world champion as well. So yeah, it was a special night. I think even the build-up and all to it was great. I was running about Central Park, pretending I was doing Rocky and Russia and everything. So it was great, and having something like that so early on in your career as well was nice, because it gives you something to look forward to instead of just fighting another name in front of you. It was previous history there. Obviously an elite amateur who won European and world medals as well as the Olympic medal. So yeah, it was good to get that win.
I feel like you kind of draw a line under it, because it's part of the story, isn't it?
It's part of the story, but I even say, people always come to me and go, "Can you do anything?" I'm like, "Oh, no problem, I'll do it. It's sound," but like I don't want to be remembered for that. And I think if I don't win a world title, I probably will be remembered for that, and that's not something I want.
So the Leigh Wood fight. Now I spoke to Leigh. You watched the interview.
Yeah,
I spoke to Leigh for Bet365. Big up Bet365. Got to do that every time. Contractual. Yeah. First and foremost, I loved the build up to that fight. I thought you played the kind of the away fighter in the.
I was the villain. I was the villain,
wasn't
I? I was the villain on that fight, and
you looked like you really enjoyed that.
I did. I enjoyed being the heel. It was quite easy. And maybe I shouldn't have been. Maybe I shouldn't have played that role, because it probably gave him more kind of grip between his teeth for the whole thing. But yeah, I played it. I loved it. I loved the build up, and if the build up was the thing to go by, I was like, I won unanimously. But that's not how fights go. They don't go off build ups, and I wasn't expecting it to go that way anyway. I knew it was going to be a tough fight. I always said that, but one I thought I would win comfortably in terms of points and stuff.
Was part of the plan to get under his skin, maybe make him a little bit more reckless, a bit more eager, or was it just kind of the way that it played out?
Just the way it played out. I half was like saying to myself, "What? I'm not even going to feed in there," because Leigh kind of needs a little bit of back and forth. But if he talks shit, I'll talk shit, and that's the thing. If you're going to talk shit, I can talk shit, so I'll talk it back, and that's what happened. I just played it out. I was half going to go and play a little role in my head and go, "No, I'll not do it this way, I'll do it that way." But then when I got there and I was sitting on stage and it was just me and my brother. He has his whole team with him, his whole gym with him. I was just like, "Fuck you, I'm just going to talk shit here. I'll talk shit about your coach too."
Jamie had to go as well.
We're brothers, brothers in arms, Fucking Andrew Tate and Christian Tate here. That's what we're doing. So it was.
Was the comment about the perm just spur of the moment, or was that something that you'd kind of thought?
No, that was spur of the moment.
That was really good. I enjoyed it. I like Leigh, but I really like that bit. Really
listen. Fuck, it's a perm, it is a perm, so I had to kind of say it, we're not back in the 80s, people aren't getting jerry curls no more, so I had to say it. I think it was a nice one. It was just It was perfect. It was perfect.
It made
in that
more
point,
headlines than if you stood there and like, I'm going to knock you out or anything like that. You kind of people, you don't really hear
played
that.
up in the whole thing, and it was funny. It made the build up exciting. I know the zone loved it. They really wanted it, and they were delighted with how it all went. And I could have easily done what most kind of away fighters do and not done the media. A lot of the away fighters go, "Nah, I'm not going to do it. It's not my promotion. I'm not going to sell a fight." But I enjoyed it. Yeah.
How did you feel walking out in front of however many thousand screaming Nottingham faithful on the night?
It was half Nottingham, half.
Well, yeah,
Irish,
of course, yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's one thing where I look back and go, I learned here, because I probably went in too like up for it, too ready to like go to war, instead of coming in with like the cool head and the hot kitchen, whatever kind of everybody kind of says. I was like, yeah, fuck you cunts and all this here, in the ring and stuff. I was just ready. I was ready for war, like, and it showed. It showed in the fight. You know what I mean?
Were you surprised that you were able to catch him so early with that left hand? You set it up beautifully. You went to the body, and then you just whipped it over the top. Like, were you surprised you got to him that quickly?
Yeah, I was, because looking back on it, I probably overestimated his actual technical ability at the time, because like he'll be prepared for a lot of my southpaws, for we trained southpaw, but he, like, everybody knows I was going to fight southpaw. Like, you could see like how my previous year I was going to fight southpaw, and he didn't. He couldn't catch on to anything which I was doing. Once I landed, me knocking him down was probably the worst thing that happened, because I tried to empty the gas tank. And one thing I always did say, listen, I always say is that, even in the build up, and still say it now, is that like technically we're miles apart, but one thing he has is grit and toughness and determination. And I said that before the fight, I still say it now. He showed me a tenfold in that fight. But in terms of technical ability, I knew it was miles ahead. I knew it could make it look like it's a really easy night, but it's going to be a tough fight. And once I kind of had him down, it was like 10 more seconds in that round, it's done. But his toughness and his durability showed in the next round and the next few rounds, because he was getting pinged all around the place. And there was times the referee probably could have stepped in, but he done the right thing not to, because Leigh ended up winning. So yeah, it was easy to land it, but at the same time, it's probably the worst thing happened to it in the first round.
Yeah, because everybody kind of, myself included, kind of looked at it as like, Conlan's going to be super sharp early on. You've got the extensive amateur background, and Leigh is somebody who, as you said, grit, determination, can punch. It was going to be sort of a fight of two halves. Yeah. But I'm assuming in the kind of the pressure cooker atmosphere, once you've dropped him heavy as well, the knockdown was really heavy. And even at the start of the second round, he was still buzzed, and he was still getting off his chair buzzed. How difficult is it to not just load up, not empty the tank in those moments?
It was very difficult, because I did. I just went gun ho and started throwing everything, and not timing shots, not picking shots. I was just winging and tightening up when I was winging, and obviously wasting an awful lot of energy without being smart. Because I says, listen, I can win this fight just being born and just boxing. I probably should do that, but that's experience. And that's experience in a 12-round fight like that, because people will say like Conlan's gas tank and all this here, but like if you look at that fight, how much punches were thrown and how much effort was put in that early part of that fight, throughout the whole fight, even in the 11th round before the slip, because it was a slip. Like I was winning that round comfortably. I was punching holes in Leigh in that round, and then I slipped, and it just changed momentum. Because if that's happened, the momentum doesn't change. It's just going to continue on. But just change the momentum of the whole fight. And he came out the last round ready to kind of take me out, because he knocked me down. In his head, he's going, I've got him. In my head, I'm kind of going, fuck me. Just fucking got knocked and scored against me. And then obviously what happened, and I was outside the ring, and my brother caught me, thank fuck. So yeah, I mean, if he hadn't been there, like, could have been serious damage done. Like,
yeah, I mean, we've seen fighters. I mean, Bernard Hopkins, one of the kind of big examples of recent years, and Joe Smith knocked him through the ropes. But I don't think I've seen somebody, because you went like vertical. Yeah, you went through the ropes and you went directly down. How much do you remember of the 12th round? Do you have any recollection of it, or?
To be honest, I don't have much recollection of it. Of not because of it, because like after fights, I'm just like fuck. I don't care about that. Like forget it. But I do remember coming out, and then I remember like a few shots being traded at me, going feeling a bit gassy here. I'm gonna take a wee bit of a break, step back, we're on the ropes, and just made a silly move. And the reason I got knocked out is I didn't see the punch coming. I put my head down here, and I didn't see it, and it hit me there. And it's the ones you don't see it do the damage. Because if you look, it wasn't like when I fought Leigh. Everybody talks about Leigh's power and stuff, but like, look how much times he hit me in that fight. He obviously hit me a fair few times, and he didn't hurt me once. He didn't buzz me once. There was nothing in that fight where I went, oh fuck. Like I remember when I was on the ropes and I was blocking, and I could feel him put his whole power into the body shots and stuff. Like he was putting everything in. I could see he putting everything in. I was just going, yeah, that's no problem. This cunt's trying to really hurt me here, but yeah. And then anytime I hit him in the body, he was like, I was making sure I wasn't showing anything, but I could tell every time I hit him, he was going, he's making noises and stuff. So I was like, I've got him here, but it's just how face play out, isn't it?
I asked Leigh the same question. I'm going to kind of put it to you. When you have, we spoke about Barrera and Morales, and it's a similar sort of ilk, that fight. I mean, it's one of the, it's something from a film, from a Rocky film. When you share nearly 12 rounds like that with somebody, how does the relationship change afterwards? I know you would have seen what I asked Leigh in his response, but is there a respect? Is there animosity? I'm sure you want to get the rematch and wrong the right the wrong, rather. How is the relationship now between yourself and Leigh?
I haven't really spoken to him since. I spoke to him once. Since I think it was at the Fury
White
card. I was in the lobby talking to Top Rank, because Top Rank were there. And he came down to the left, and I said, when are we going to do the rematch? He says, oh, you look heavy now. And he says, when are we going to do the rematch? He says, and then he disappeared. But like, listen, I have respect for him. And I said this before, I have respect for him. Nothing's changed in that. I've probably more respect for him in terms of his toughness and what he showed. But I still believe I'm the better fighter. Even though I made a loss, I still believe I'm the better fighter, and I still believe that if it happens again, 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. That happens once in a fucking blue moon. That was his night. That was his glory moment, and that will probably be the biggest moment of his career for when he retires and stuff. So you gotta respect him. But obviously, I would love to do it again at some stage. But I don't know if it ever happens again, really, because I think after if he fights Lara again and he gets knocked out bad, probably time to close the curtains, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those where the fight is always going to be there. It'll always have some sort of interest in it because of how good the first fight was. You both got massive fan bases. But yeah, I don't know whether or not it's going to necessarily align now. He's obviously been knocked out by Mauricio Lara in his last fight. They're due to box again in 10 weeks' time, or thereabouts, or 10 weeks from the first fight, should I say?
Yeah, 8 weeks. 8 weeks time.
8 weeks, yeah, because he's
same date as me.
Boxing on the same day. It's funny how things like that work in boxing, isn't it? It's a very kind of... Yeah, you two are kind of linked from your first fight, and then you're boxing for a world title. He's trying to get it back on the same night in different places. But it's a fight that I will always want to watch that fight again.
Definitely. And listen, I hope he wins. I love to see him win, because I think if he wins, it's the only way the kind of rematch can't happen. Because if I win, am I really going to want to go back and fight Leigh? I can take my ego out of this situation, because I'm a very business-minded person when it comes to that. My ego wouldn't be affected at all, because I know, what happened in that fight and how I performed in that fight, so I'm happy enough. But I would hope he wins, and I hope he does win, because I would love the fight to happen again. But whether it does or not, I don't know. But yeah, listen, it's his second fight now since our fight. I've had 2 fights already, 2 wins, 2 good wins, and now I'm looking to grasp a world title for the first time, and doing it in my hometown. I find it impossible to lose.
What did you make of his performance in the first Lara fight, and how did you see the rematch going?
I thought he boxed well. At parts throughout it, he was obviously big trouble in the second round, and then he started to get the grips of it. And I believe in that fight, I don't think this next fight was the same, but I believe the only reason he lost that fight was because he got greedy, and he started to trade hooks with a hooker. And listen, Lara, probably pound for pound, is the biggest puncher in the division. But Leigh definitely has the ability to beat him, but I don't think it being so soon after he can do that. I think like it takes a bit of time. Look, he was out basically a year from when we fought. He probably took more damage when we fought, but it's too soon. I think it's too soon after. Mentally, like he's got enough of that to come over there, and I do hope he can go through it. And I wish him all the luck in the world, but I don't see it.
Your fight against Luis Alberto Lopez. I mean, some people had only really seen Luis Alberto Lopez when he boxed Josh Warrington, of course, last year, I think December, when he came over here and won the world title.
Same name as me.
Yeah, again, it's funny how these things kind of...
We're all linked there.
Yeah, it all kind of... It's boxing's a very, very strange business with stuff like that. You, I'm sure, would have seen more of Lopez than that. Of course, he boxed Isaac Lowe at York Hall, but he's a top-ranked fighter, beat a very, at the time, heavily hyped young prospect in Gabe Flores Jr., really put a beating on him in that fight. Yeah. How difficult of a fight is this for you?
It's a very difficult fight. I think Lopez is an unbelievable fighter. Probably one of the harder fights in the division for me, this fight. But yeah, I think it's a fight that I can win and look good doing so. He's very, very dangerous, punches very hard, throws some mad kind of angles and moves in this fight, in when he fights, in all his fights. So unorthodox, it's crazy. It's very hard to prepare for someone like that. And if you stand in front of him, it's a dream come true for him, but that's not something I plan to do. Yeah.
And is that from, I mean, obviously I know him and Leigh Wood are different types of fighters, but lessons learned from the Leigh Wood fight, not get greedy?
Massive lessons, take the emotion out of the whole thing, not get caught up on the little things going through it. And I think that what the Leigh Wood fight has done for me will do me, has done me the world of good. If you look at my performances against your Miguel Mariagas and then taking out Garfi and stuff in the first round, I think you can already see like the little changes. So yeah, I think that there's plenty to learn from that fight, and this fight, I'll go into this fight emotionless, ready to beat a fantastic champion and take his belt away.
One of the things that we spoke about the other day actually was myself, Andy Clark and Barry Jones, where we were speaking about the featherweight division. It kind of felt like a couple of years ago it maybe wasn't as strong. You had like Russell, who was inactive with the WBC. Leo was kind of super featherweight but not really there. Feels like now, if you look across the champions and obviously contenders such as yourself, you've got Mauricio Lara, Robeisy Ramirez, Brandon Figueroa, Ray Vargas I think is going to come back down. It's there again now. Luis Alberto Lopez. You must be licking your lips at the prospect of winning a title and then having a Robeisy Ramirez unification, a Lara or Wood unification. It's a great time to be a featherweight now.
It's a fantastic time, and I would just love someone that come out and say, listen, we'll do like a Super 6 tournament, or maybe you can do more people, like a round robin type tournament, because I think now, probably since Floyd is gone, the losses aren't meaning as much as what they used to. And I think like the clashes of styles in the featherweight division would be unbelievable for like a super series kind of tournament. Not a tournament, like a round robin where everybody faces each other, and whoever comes out on top, whoever wins the most fights wins the praise, whatever it could be, and obviously pick up all the belts along the way. Whether it happens or not is the question. It won't. There's too much politics in boxing, but if there was something like that, I would sign up to it 100%, because I believe I have a style that beats all of them, so I made a loss, but it's these things happen, and I think I've become a better fighter since then. Which one of those fights appeals to you the most? Is it the Robeisy fight? Is it potentially Wood if he beats Lara? The Robeisy fight is a fantastic one because of the history between the two of us. We've both fought in 2012, a long time ago now, 11 years ago this year. So that one appeals to me. Lara or Wood both appeal to me. I think that out of all the guys, my style is the one that beats Lara's, because anybody stands in front of Lara, he's going to take them out. But it's something that I think is someone who I think can be very easily outboxed, but you just need to be patient and switched on for the full 12 rounds, because let's be honest, if he hits you, you could be in trouble. Who knows, but you could be. What have you made of Robeisy's, I guess, development and progression as a pro? Because obviously he didn't get off to the best of starts, lost his pro debut, but he's now world champion in 13 fights. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's just like 2-time Olympic gold medalist. His pedigree is there. Obviously lost his debut But like Lomachenko lost his debut, you know what I mean? It doesn't really mean anything, especially when you're that talented. I think he's developed very well over his last few fights. He's looked very good. He's looked much more mature. Looks like he's punching harder, especially compared to the debut and stuff. But he's starting to mix his amateur style with a pro style, and the blend with Salas looks like it's done really well for him, because I think at the start he was with someone in Florida and he probably wasn't switched on the way he should have been. But now he seems like he is, and he's doing well. So I respect Ribisi fairly enough throughout the amateurs. So I'm delighted for him.
Yeah, you kind of get that sometimes with the Cubans when they turn pro. I mean, Odlania Solis, who were kind of living it up in Miami for a fair bit, didn't?
Yeah, most of them do. Most of them like that.
Because you go from...
There was all them ones who came to Ireland, who Gary Hayde took
Mike Perez
and stuff, and there was other ones who stopped boxing because they were just living their life. Drink is cheap and work is easy, and you got so many women loving you because you're Cuban now. You can dance. So it's hard when you come from obviously I can't really know because I haven't came up, but a communist country, and everything is limited and you're not to do a certain amount of things. But when you come to the free world, so to say, and you're able to do anything you want and experience anything you want and go anywhere you want, it's a nice position to be in. And it's probably hard to kind of focus straight away, but that's why I'd say Ramirez probably lost his debut because he wasn't focused. But he's focused and he's a danger man, so you have to be on your game to beat him.
Does the Josh Warrington fight appeal to you? I mean, you've two, again, massive fan bases. It seems to me like that fight could happen in Belfast and Leeds, wherever. New York.
His fans want to travel. My fans I have got fans in New York. I've got fans to travel to New York. So, it's a fantastic fight. One I would love. And one that is definitely a potential for the future. Warrington, he was IBF world champion already, so I'm sure he'll want to get back into that position. But there's some fantastic fights out there, especially on these shores. There's plenty of good fights.
Final one before I let you go. We've mentioned his name several instances throughout this. Your brother Jamie, who, of course, as well as a fighter in his own right, is now your manager. The man who looks after you. Been there from the very, very beginning, not just, of course, your boxing career. How much does it mean to you to have somebody like Jamie? I mean, anybody would have seen the Leigh Wood press conference and seen him ringside and jumping up and down, lives and breathes every moment with you. It must be such a great relationship that you have with your brother. Yeah,
listen, I think that for him, I'm probably one of the easiest fighters to work with compared to a lot of the guys who we work with. But he tells me what it is. Tells me I don't really want to know everything. Just tell me how much I'm getting, who I'm fighting, when I'm fighting, and where I'm fighting. Done. Gives me out then, and it's easy. It's someone who I know has my best interest at heart, and it has since I was a kid. Always had that looked out for me and being that big brother. But now in boxing we know how corrupt boxing can be and how dirty of a game it actually is, especially professional boxing. It's a business first and foremost, and a lot of the time the guys get fucked over as the fighters. So they have someone who is manager, promoter, fighter, because with Conlan boxing we're doing our own promotion, obviously. Him looking after me is very, very, I'm very lucky in a sense, because not many people have their brothers who have their best interests at heart looking after them.
Absolutely. What was it like for you watching him fight? Because he was in wars. The guy was in a war and a shadow when he was shadow sparring.
Never. I hate it. And I told him so many times, you need to finish. Just pack it in. Don't do it, because in his training camp, remember I used to go and I used to train with him and stuff, and I used to spar him and stuff. In training camp, him sparring and stuff, it wasn't getting in the wars or anything. He was boxing. He was looking really good. And the fighting just changes, and you're like, why? Stop. You're right, he would get in the war of a shadow. And look at the fights he had, how he came through the majority of them except one against German and Cajas.
He was a great fighter.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable fighter, and especially at that time he was on a bit of a roll.
Really, he kind of stagnated, didn't he?
He has now, and it's unfortunate, but what a fighter he was at that time, and it was just a step too far from him. And once Jamie really says, after he lost down Cajas, I after fucking loads of fights, even the ones you want to pack it and stop, because I can't go through this every time. If you watch me at ringside at any of his fights where I'm at ringside, because usually I'm away somewhere, I'm going fucking crazy. It kills me. But after Nkahas, I didn't even have to say anything. He says, listen, I'm not good enough to win a world title. There's no point in me boxing. It's like he was in it to win a world title, and when he realised he wasn't good enough to win a world title, he just says, that's me done there. There's no point in me doing it. I only want to be the best. So
it's getting that closure, isn't it? Most fighters, regardless of kind of how their careers go, they need that closure.
And fighters, the majority of fighters, as you see, can't hang up the gloves at the right time, and that's the danger of boxing. Like, we haven't touched on it in this podcast, but like doping and boxing and stuff, and like for me, without doping already, boxing is so dangerous, and especially having 2 kids, you realise how dangerous it is. It makes you more aware of what it is and stuff, and the damages, and that's why half of the way, like, I changed my style out in booth, because I know I'm not taking damage, and as it says, like, I seen guys change from the start of the year to the end of the year, different people. So you see how dangerous the boxing can be firsthand, just from sparring and stuff. And then obviously in fights, and then when you add in drug cheats, like, fuck me, mate. Like, to be honest, if you're cheating in boxing like that, if you're taking performance and drugs in a fight where you can kill a man, well, I don't even want to say what I would say, because it should be the reverse. Like, you know what I mean? It should happen to the person who does the damage. They should feel what their person is feeling. And if someone dies in the ring, I think that's what's going to take it. To be honest, I think that's how bad it's going to be. Someone's going to have to die in the ring, and the guy be caught with PEDs, and then, like, maybe something will happen then. But lifetime bans need to be enforced, and just, like, get rid of them completely. Like, someone needs to be made an example of. I mean, you can't make an example of Amir Khan now because he's retired, but like, it's disgusting what he's done, because he's failed for whatever he failed. But in a post fight, like, as soon as the fight's done, so he was actually in a system then, whereas your man Dr. Uzi, whatever his name is, he's saying, that's the easiest one to get away with and all this here shit. Like, it sickens me, man. It sickens me. Like, they're the lowest of the low. People who cheat in combat sports are the lowest of the low.
I've seen it in Germany. They have like a rule: if you fail for performance enhancing drugs, it's not just combat sports. But I think, as you've said there, it's more so with combat sports. You're not running faster, you're not jumping higher, you're not hitting a ball.
See in any of them sports, please dope as much as you want. I would love to see how fast the human body can actually go with performance enhancing. Let's see how fast it can go, or let's see how much you can Sega, like, completely up, do fucking Tour de France 5 times if you can. Go, let's see if you can do it. No problem, you're not hurting nobody, you're hurting yourself. So if that's on you, that's on you. Go ahead, let's see it. I'll watch it. But when it comes to competition, where someone's getting punched in the head or kicked in the head, whatever combat sport it is, where someone could be killed, come on, man, or like damaged and like fucking put into, like, speaking like a vegetable for the rest of their lives and all this here. No, man, it's not correct. The strictest and the most heftiest kind of consequences should lie on those people.
How do we change it, Mick? I mean, we wasn't necessarily going to come onto it, but as soon as we spoke about it, it is a very hot topic, and it's a topic that I know that you feel very passionate about, as do I. And I'm on the outside of the ring. I'm not risking my life and my family's future like you. How do we reform it? I mean, the last, since probably October being the obvious, since the Conor Ben situation, we've heard UCAD, WADA, VADA, DADA, whatever. How do we get reform?
Someone needs to be made an example of. There needs to be mad penalties, mad fines, and bans, like lifetime bans. Lifetime bans need to come in. The people who get caught cheating need lifetime bans, but also, like, WADA, as an amateur, it's unbelievable, because you get tested so many times randomly. I got to fill in the whereabouts. As an amateur, I've been tested way more times than amateur as a professional. Now, every fight, I've been tested as a professional. After the fight, post-fight, or else if you're in America, you get pre-fight. Just before you're going in the ring, you get tested when you go in the change room. But when I was an amateur, I had to fill in a whereabouts where I was going to be every single day of the year for 1 hour of that day for a full year. And that used to be all the time, so it could come at any time. But if you're not there in your hour, it's counted as a missed test. So you got three missed tests before ban or before something happens. I was tested 4 times in 1 week as an amateur,
And I was disgusted because I was making weight, so I was like trying not to drink water. I was doing the wrong way at the time. I was dehydrating myself, and they were like, "You need to drink." Drug testers sitting in my house for like 6 hours waiting to get pissed out of me. So, but that's the way it should be. And water, and the amateurs, they had it right. I don't know why. I suppose it's all different governing bodies in boxing, but that's the way it should be in boxing, in professional boxing. But it's not, and I don't know who's going to put up the money to do it. There's no fighters that want to be putting up the money, but like I've been calling for VADA in this fight coming up with Luis Alberto Lopez, because I want all my fights to have VADA, because they're the ones who seem to be catching people at the minute.
That's the additional
extra stuff, and they're testing even deeper and higher levels of stuff. So I think that lifetime bans need to be coming, and people need to get banned for life, and fined massive money, because what happens if you kill someone?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
there's no price on it.
We had I actually spoke to Zab Judah a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when we were in Vegas, and he'd been given a brain injury, bleed on a brain. He boxed Cletus Selden, and Cletus Selden had failed a drugs test. I don't think he'd failed one for that fight. And I remember Zab Judah kind of being, he believed that he had been put in a coma with a bleed on the brain by somebody who had doped. And it's somebody like Zab Judah who's given his whole life to boxing. He's got a family himself. And you just kind of look at fighters like him and the damage that can be done and the damage that was done to him. And you look at performance-enhancing drugs, which is seemingly rife in boxing over here, in America, around the world. And it just makes you think, like, this is not the 100 metres.
Nah, it's not the 100 metres. And I don't think enough fighters are speaking up on it. Because I think, listen, they all could be on fucking shit. Who knows? I mean, test me 100 times over, you'll not find anything. But I think that a lot of fighters are doing stuff because of people. I know it's not, you can't paint everybody with the same brush, but like people not speaking up. Come on, speak up. Your lives are possibly on the line when you're fighting these kind of guys. So I don't care how good you think you are. Listen, anything can happen in that ring. So I think more fighters need to speak up. I think something will happen when more fighters speak up, but not enough fighters speaking up, and there could be a reason behind that, but who knows?
Well, from my perspective, I'm very pleased to hear that somebody like yourself, somebody who is high profile both as amateur and professional, is so outspoken about things. You can maybe calm down on the other stuff sometimes, but keep doing your thing. But before we let you go, you're going to receive the honour of being the first fighter at ID Studios to sign some gloves. Now, I've got to try and get into them, but we're going to give one away.
Yeah.
Do I have to go get them now? You can tell how often I open fresh pairs of gloves. Fucking hell. That's the problem here. So, hopefully we're not going to be in any trouble with any of your glove suppliers, but we've got a couple of gloves for you. If you're watching this and you would like to win a signed glove by former world amateur champion and soon to be professional world champion Michael Conlan, look out for ID Boxing, and you'll see here, this is the certificate of authenticity. It's all on camera. It's not just Andy over there forging a signature. Not that he does that anyway. But there we go.
The only other person who can do my signature is Paddy Barnes.
Oh, is it really? Yeah. We won't go into that. Lovely, thanks very much, Michael. As I say, we're still making a house a home here at ID Studios, so this will take prized place on one of these shelves. But Michael, I've really enjoyed catching up with you. I've really enjoyed going through some of your stories. I'm sure there's plenty more, so let's do this again after, hopefully, you capture that IBF. When you capture that IBF featherweight title against Luis Alberto Lopez on May the 27th. Before I let you go, I want you to look into that camera right there.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell people what's going to happen on May 27th in Belfast.
May 27th, I become IBF world champion. Just by victory, by any means necessary.
There we go. You heard it here first. Thanks very much, Michael. Really enjoyed having you in today. And thanks to you for watching us here in ID Studios. From me, Rob Tebbutt, from him, Michael Conlan. Thanks very much for stopping by, and we'll catch up with you next time.